Hello, I'm Bob Lancer, and the purpose of this show is to lead you into the life you truly want to be living. It is also about helping you to better understand and relate with others, especially the children in your life, in support of their great potential. So this show is for anyone who wants to live with more peace and purpose and positive power to soar into the fulfillment of our greatest promise. Another major aspect of proactive parenting has to do with supervision. When we give a child too much freedom, we give that child too much opportunity to demonstrate and develop behavior problems. A common pattern involves giving the child too much freedom and then reacting in an overly intense outburst when the child's behavior becomes too outrageous to ignore. To proactively improve your child's behavior, improve the quality of your supervision. The moment you see your child beginning to drift into overly wild behavior, step in to calm him down. The moment your child's becoming destructive, step in right away to help the child to get back on a constructive track. The further your child drifts into destructive or wild behavior, the longer it's going to take to rein in the child's behavior. Understanding the need expressed by your child's behavior is perhaps the most fundamental aspect of proactive parenting. Your child may behave poorly because he feels resentful of the love you give a new sibling. It may be due to the fact that she is being teased in school. It may be due to the relationship discord between you and your spouse. Whatever the reason for the child's poor behavior, there is always a reason behind why a child behaves as he or she does. If you react too quickly, too automatically, too intensely to the child's behavior, you overlook the underlying need expressed by that behavior. When you understand the cause of the behavior, you can do something about that to cause better behavior. Rather than yelling at your child, you might find much more satisfaction and success by simply giving your child more quality time with you. It may be that your child defies you because when he does that, you react with feelings of powerlessness. And that reaction actually encourages him to repeat that behavior for the sense of power that he derives from it. Children are connected with their parents' emotional states. Your emotional reactions operate as causes relative to your child's subsequent behavior. In other words, how you feel emotionally influences how your child behaves. Sometimes what the child needs is for the parent to calm down so that the child can calm down enough to demonstrate better self-control. By bringing more peace and poise, more self-confidence and more self-respect into your responses, you automatically instill in your child those positive inner states that are the foundation for your child to be able to make positive behavioral choices. When you feel basically calm, confident, and secure within, you inspire your child's confidence in you. You inspire your child's trust in you and respect for you. And in that balanced state of composure, you are most resourceful. You're the best able to come up with understanding and creative solutions. If your child can do anything to drive you crazy, your child is in the driver's seat and not in a good way. Practice improving your composure so that you can calmly and confidently respond to however your child behaves. When you lose your composure, you lose the ability to come up with positive solutions. You lose the ability to connect well with your child. You lose the ability to produce the results you really want. Providing a child with the influences she needs before she gets into trouble will diminish the amount of trouble she gets into. But your child is still human, and there's no way for any parent to do a perfect job of influencing a child. As a parent, you will be tried and tested to your limits. But that does not mean that you're doing a poor job. The responsibility of parenting is to grow into a more effective parent by learning through the experiences that you have on a daily basis. Avoid focusing so much on what your child is doing wrong that you're overlooking the wrong ways that you're reacting to it. Look back at what happened before your child behaved poorly to see how your way of relating with the child might have led up to that. For example, the child may have been involved in some sort of activity that was constructive and benign, and you stepped in and disturbed him and started controlling his behavior rather than waiting a moment or so for the child to sort of come out of his focus on his own. And by disturbing the child in that way, you incited a negative reaction. This does not mean that we have to kowtow to our children, but it does mean that if we want to help our children to develop positive, responsible behavior patterns that will lead to their great success in life, we have to avoid unnecessarily inciting their destructive behavior patterns. To establish appropriate boundaries with a child, begin as early as you can in establishing appropriate boundaries. But always establish boundaries in a loving way. You know when you feel resentful, frustrated, and impatient. When you feel that way, you're not loving. You're depriving both your child and yourself of the joy and fulfillment of a loving relationship between you. And your child needs to feel totally secure in your total love in order to behave as well as possible. As you discipline yourself to relate with your child in a responsible yet loving way, you will experience more satisfaction and more success in your relationship with your child. And your child will feel more satisfied with you. Establishing boundaries correctly begins with establishing boundaries on ourselves. For instance, if you find that doing what your child asks you to do leads your child into feelings of entitlement and causes her to behave poorly when you do not give her what she wants, curtail how much you do for her. If your toddler throws objects wildly in the house in a way that threatens to destroy things or hurt people, watch him closely so that you could take objects out of his hand when he goes into his wind-up. Parenting is extremely hard work, but hard work is extremely fulfilling when we go about it in the right way. To work as well as you can for the best results, you have to be enjoying your work. If you're not enjoying the work involved in parenting proactively, it means you're pushing yourself too hard. You have to make the adjustments that you need to make to be grateful for your child's being, for your child's presence, to not get so overwhelmed by reacting to behavior that you overlook your opportunity to experience deep, sacred love and gratitude for the gift of your child. Give a child no more freedom than the child can handle responsibly. When the child displays irresponsibility, limit the amount of freedom you give him. He can't watch TV if he's not doing his homework. The more television a child watches, the worse the child's going to behave. Because what television does is it weakens the child's ability to control his own attention. The television program is controlling the child's attention. So the more television a child watches, the weaker his ability to concentrate, to connect with his own higher intelligence, to control himself in productive, constructive ways. So if a child's behavior is out of line, limit the amount of TV she's allowed to watch, not as a punishment, but simply to stop giving her the influences that are making it impossible for her to improve her behavior. Don't permit your child to play with his friends today if after playing with them yesterday, he was disrespectful and unruly. Again, this is not a punishment. It simply means that he's being exposed to influences that are not working for him. And in order to help him to develop the positive behavior patterns that you want for your child and the positive attitude patterns that you want for your child, you need to be careful about overexposing your child to influences that are sending him in the wrong direction. Don't allow your child to ride his bike today if he was riding it too dangerously yesterday. Again, this is not a punishment. It's a way of protecting your child. Once he's able to demonstrate the level of self-control for responsible bike riding, he's then again permitted to ride his bike for longer periods of time on his own. Don't allow your child to go to a friend's house today if yesterday, when she went to her friend's house, she stayed later than she was supposed to. This is not a punishment. We have to be careful about placing our children in situations where they're bound to fail. Once a child demonstrates that they're able to handle a privilege responsibly, then they're permitted to keep the privilege. You make that clear to the child beforehand so they understand what's going on. Establishing boundaries appropriately teaches your child the value of self-restraint. But if you're establishing boundaries with much anger and stress, in a context of fighting, it won't work. Your fighting, your anger, your stress, being out of self-control is inciting the child to be out of self-control, so that even if the child wants to abide by the boundaries, she can't. Don't raise your child to do as she is told. Raising people to do as they're told raises them to be helpless and dependent, incapable of leading themselves. If you're simply doing what you do because someone told you to do it, you are being irresponsible. You are actually responsible for every decision you make, no matter who tells you to do it. You want to raise your child to be able to make good decisions for herself, even when there's no one there to tell her what to do. Good decisions for herself, even when there's someone there telling her to do the wrong thing. In order to teach a child to make good, positive, healthy decisions for herself, you need to provide a child with the real reason behind a rule. For example, the reason I'm not allowing you to watch TV is because it's having a negative impact on your ability to control yourself and to focus on school. When you demonstrate that you can focus on school and behave well, I'll permit you to watch more TV to see if you can handle that. That's a simple way of raising a child to base his and her decisions on what is actually in her best interest. Another way that we raise children to make good, healthy choices for themselves is by modeling that. When you react with anger and frustration and stress and strain, when you yell and argue and experience insecurity and anxiety, you are demonstrating for your child unhealthy ways of conducting yourself. You're making a poor decision, poor choices for yourself. And then, if you blame your circumstances or your child for the ways that you're mistreating yourself, the ways that you're making yourself miserable, the ways that you're placing yourself in a state that makes it impossible for you to access your best judgment and your highest level of skill and creative problem-solving ability, then you're further demonstrating for your child irresponsible ways of conducting herself. You are never helpless. You are never really powerless. When there seems to be nothing that you can do, it may be that for right now, all you need to do is to be able to trust that you don't need to do anything right now. And that's all the time we have for today's broadcast of Bob Lancer's Answers. To order a recording of today's show or of previous shows, and for more information about my work, check out my website at boblancer.com.